welcome everybody to this beautiful session. I also want to welcome all of our participants, our amazing speakers, which I can't wait to hear from. And also welcome to everybody that is going to be listening to this in the replay. This is our session of women and health, women's mental health and holistic well-being for eco-civilizations year of mental health. And I just want to start by inviting us all in a moment of just grounding and settling in. So I'm going to invite us all to just really feel our feet just connected to this beautiful, living, breathing planet we get to call home. And if it feels right to you, just closing the eyes and just bringing the awareness to the breath. And for a moment, just rest in this gentle in and out, effortless breath, our breath of life, knowing that all of life breathes together. And let's just do a little check-in with our body, how the body is feeling today. And if you can, just soften, settling in, just giving your entire body permission to relax. And as you're just resting in this breath, I will offer us some words. That's an excerpt from a song called Radiance by Jai Uttal and Ben Leibach from an album called Loveland. Peace to the inner and outer environments. Peace to the 5 elements within and without. Peace to this body. Peace to this mind. Peace to this huge ocean of emotions and feelings. And by the power of the truth and for the happiness of all beings, may we have a culture of peace, a society of peace, a world of peace, where we can have days of peace, nights of peace, sleep with peace, and dreams of peace. And by the power of the truth and for the healing of all beings, may we have peace in all moments and in everything. I'm going to invite us now to just take a collective deep belly breath in, drawing that breath in from the belly all the way, expanding the chest all the way to the top of your head. And when you're ready to exhale, exhale through the mouth with a big sigh. When we are ready, we're just going to be gently opening up our eyes. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful deep breath together. I truly believe that when women gather with a collective intention, I don't just believe this, I've seen it, some powerful, magical things start happening. And with that, I would love to introduce our first speaker, Adele Wimsett. Adele is a women's health practitioner and cyclical living guide. Having co-authored the book Essential Feminine Wisdom, she's passionate about educating women and girls on harnessing the power of their cyclical nature. From menarche to menopause, Adele brings the woo and the science, supporting women to balance their hormones naturally, and is passionate about speaking on all things menstrual education. Adele's specialism within the women's health arena is specializing in supporting ADHD women to understand how their hormones affect their traits. So with that, Adele, a warm-hearted welcome, and I hand over to you.
Thank you so much for that. I love that little guided meditation. I could have stayed there all day. Thank you. I, as you know, am Adele. I have ADHD. I have a toxic trait of speaking at 1,000 miles an hour. So I'm really sorry. Quickly, although lots of people in my community quite enjoy it. I could speak to you for a month on this topic and get very passionate about it. But I'm going to try and really keep it quite focused on ADHD and hormones, on specific hormones. But this relates to all women, the impact our hormones have on our mood and our mental health in general. And I believe that if we weren't operating within misogynistic medical systems, we would see quite a different response to how women's mental health is managed and would have been historically. And I truly believe that in most cases, when you support a woman to regulate her hormones, you have a profound effect on her emotional and mental health. But I'm not going to go on a feminist rampage. I'm going to keep it really specific to looking at our hormones and ADHD. And I came into this work because I was diagnosed. I run a women's health clinic. It's international. I have an online one and an in-person one that I run with a specialist GP. So when I received my diagnosis a few years ago, I went straight to the research. As you said, I bridge the sacred and the science. So I want to know the data. I want to see what's happening. And I was furious that there was really nothing telling me about the impact my hormones had on my traits. And yet I knew the relationship between hormones and neurotransmitters was huge. So I embarked on a journey to begin to fill that void for neurodivergent women. And recently, actually earlier this year, completed my own study into peri-menopause and ADHD. And that's free as a download off my website, and I won't go into a lot of detail about that. But that's the kind of context within which I work, and I'm very passionate about empowering women with this knowledge around their bodies. So hopefully, whether you're neurodivergent or not, there's going to be information that is useful to you today. So I'm not going to go into any detail about what is ADHD, what do we think is caused. For the purposes of this, ADHD is believed to have be linked to neurotransmitters. Mostly dopamine and serotonin are the ones that get a lot of airtime. And this is really important when we're looking at a woman's brain. These are the parts of the brain that we know are covered in estrogen and progesterone receptors. And if a cell has a hormone receptor on it, it means it depends on that hormone to do its job properly. Not only does it depend on the correct levels, but the right ratios. And this is really important, particularly when we're talking about estrogen and progesterone. So this would make sense that when we're seeing the parts of the brain that affect cognitive function and executive function, which is the issue in ADHD, no wonder the hormones have such a big impact. And what I'm going to do now is really start to go into the correlation between specific hormones and neurotransmitters. So the neurotransmitters are dopamine, which is our motivation, our reward, our drive, our focus. That were like mojo, get up and go neurotransmitters, which is a problem for us. Serotonin, which is mood calmer when it's working properly, and is considered to be the contentment neurotransmitter. Another one is glutamate. This one gets much less airtime, but is really important, particularly for those of us with sensitive nervous systems or a history of trauma. And it plays a role in alertness and memory and focus, but too much of it can have quite the opposite effect and be very detrimental to our mental health. On the flip side of that, we have GABA, which is the real sort of calm, restorative, helps the brain to really calm down, neurotransmitter. And also one that I work with a lot in my clinic is histamine. So it's not just an inflammatory mediator, it also acts as a neurotransmitter around alertness and arousal, energy. But again, when it becomes out of balance, it can have a detrimental impact on our mood. And we know that ADHD people are much more likely to have histamine intolerant issues. So having an understanding that it's not just about dopamine and serotonin, it's all these. There's other ones, but these are the ones that I'm really going to focus on today. And all of these are impacting how we're able to function. So estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone, for full transparency, is my absolute favorite hormone on the planet. She doesn't get the airtime that she needs. But a lot of hormone influencers and wellness influencers and doctors are starting to now talk about ADHD and hormones, which one part of me is absolutely elated that, having beaten this drum for years, it's now starting to come into the conversation. However, a lot of the information is quite basic and offers misinformed and what can be quite harmful approaches. And this is primarily around estrogen, because we know that estrogen sensitizes dopamine and serotonin. So when estrogen is behaving herself in the body, it makes dopamine and serotonin work better. So it means that this can really be quite a sweet spot in the cycle. When estrogen has risen here, this can be quite a sweet spot for ADHD women, assuming there isn't a histamine issue and assuming we are methylating and processing that estrogen properly. And if we aren't doing that, adding more estrogen in as, oh, if we put some estrogen in the body, everything will be okay, could actually add fuel to the fire. She also she's the party girl of the hormone world, estrogen. So when she's regulated, we can feel good. But when she's not where we want her to be, she can really make us feel quite awful. I certainly see estrogen, something called estrogen dominance, related to PMDD, PMS, and significant mood dysregulation. So estrogen really is not the answer. She is the last hormone I would consider working with an ADHD woman around. The other thing that she does, apart from feeding histamine, is also stimulating glutamate. So if we have this profile that we put estrogen in because we think it's going to sensitize the dopamine and serotonin, if there's a histamine issue there and this sensitive nervous system, what we could do is actually really exacerbate any mental health issues. I see women who are having suicidal ideation. They feel awful. They can't get out of bed. Their mood is completely dysregulated. And this is the estrogen. And they'll say to me, but I was told the estrogen would make me feel better. Well, it's not going to do that if this glutamate and histamine is an issue. However, on the flip side, progesterone is the hormone that really gets a lot of bad airtime. There is a lot of misunderstanding about her, and I'm not going to go into why I think that is for time's sake today. But progesterone is a massively misunderstood hormone, and lots of women think they're intolerant or sensitive. And I would suggest that whilst it is a very real experience for women who take it, it's not actually progesterone that's the problem, but usually the dosage, in that we are currently very outdated in our medical models of progesterone. And when we get progesterone right, it's life-changing for women. And what progesterone does is sensitize GABA, this relaxing, calming element. And what we can see is that when a woman is naturally menstruating, she is always producing more progesterone than estrogen. And outdated images show these in equal amounts, that we have this rise in estrogen here and then this rise in progesterone, and it's very inaccurate. We produce tons of progesterone, which is really important for us because progesterone is a mood stabilizer and a nervous system regulator. When progesterone begins to ship out in our late 30s into our early 40s, because we're not ovulating every month in peri-menopause, which is natural and normal and what we should be doing, that progesterone drops off and we then lose that mood stabilization benefit. And this is a really common time for ADHD women to get diagnosed. And I believe it's because of progesterone deficiency. We lose the progesterone, we don't have that support for our nervous system and our mood stabilization. That then leaves estrogen unopposed, which then has more weight to feed the histamine and the glutamate. And quite, as I call my study, it's the perfect storm. So progesterone, when dosed properly in the right vehicle of delivery for a woman's body, can be an absolute game changer. And she actually has properties that calm antihistamine as well. So just from looking here, hopefully it's starting to see how significant this hormonal fluctuation is for us. We're 10 times more likely to have PMDD than neurotypical women. We're much more likely to have postnatal depression. Evidence shows that we have a significantly more challenging perimenopause. And I believe a lot of it is to do with the ratios of these two hormones and how sensitive our nervous systems are. So the other thing to note on this as well is that the lack of research into women is stark. The medical bias, the gap that we have in research around women is stark in ADHD. Lots of what we know to be true is based on naughty little white boys and is not very helpful to the rest of us. As a result, we have a lot of medications that we have decades of testing on a male physiology, but not on a female one. And with the surge of the number of women being diagnosed recently, it became very clear, and we've got one study to support this, that estrogen and progesterone have a significant impact on the effectiveness of medication, with estrogen sensitizing it and progesterone dulling it down. So we're really seeing the power of these hormonal fluctuations. And one of the things I get women to do is to track their traits when they're regularly menstruating, track their traits against their hormonal fluctuations. And the best way to support a neurodivergent woman to do this is with a pen and paper and a visual image. If we put it on an app, if we can't see it, it doesn't exist. So we'll either forget to record it, but if we've got a pen and paper by the bed and we put a cross in the box where that was an issue, we have this really clear visual map of where inattentive and hyperactive traits flare up. And the most recent study that was done that actually for the first time creates a hormonal model around ADHD was last year. And they show here to be much more likely to have a flare up of hyperactive traits, so greater risk taking, positive aggression, substance misuse, and here to be a flare up of inattentive traits. So it's really interesting to empower a woman to look at this, to see the impact this ebb and flow has throughout the month. And if nothing else, it's incredibly validating to go, oh my gosh, this isn't me. I'm not going crazy. That's the impact of this very real hormonal fluctuation on my ability to navigate my traits. And then you can use that data through menstrual cycle awareness to start to create an ADHD-friendly lifestyle around their traits. So I'm going to leave estrogen and progesterone there because, as you could tell, I could talk about this all day. And then we move on to prolactin. So prolactin is actually one that really doesn't get spoken about a lot. It's a hormone made in the pituitary gland, and its release is normally inhibited by dopamine. So if dopamine is low, which we tend to see as a key factor in ADHD, that means that prolactin levels can creep up. So low dopamine equals higher prolactin. High prolactin means lower dopamine, so they get into this feedback loop with each other. So it's a bit of a chicken egg scenario. And prolactin is often associated with breastfeeding. That's the hormone that goes high then. But actually what we've seen in more recent years is it's becoming significantly higher in all women. And I suspect this is due to chronic stress, and the HPA axis dysregulation of the stress response is just driving this prolactin up, and it's wreaking havoc in the background in terms of the HPO axis, which is how the brain's communicating with the ovaries around ovulation. SSRIs and antipsychotics can also cause prolactin to go up, as can estrogen dominance. So again, we're looking at that. They're all interrelated. You cannot just go in on one hormone when you're working with a woman. It's a system. Hormone imbalances don't exist in a vacuum. They have to be worked with all together in relationship to each other. But it can have a really big impact on ADHD symptoms. So one of the things we want to look at in the bloods, what's happening with prolactin? Is this sort of one of those things that could get missed, that could be contributing to brain fog, emotional sensitivity, particularly around rejection sensitivity dysphoria, low libido, sleep disruption, fatigue and just that loss of drive, really. So particularly if you're seeing women who are burnt out, I would be looking at prolactin. Then thyroid. Again, I clinically see ADHD women are much more prone to having imbalances in their thyroid. And, no wonder when we see the direct relationship between adrenal function and thyroid function, no wonder we're much more prone to having this imbalance. But the thyroid hormones play a crucial role in brain development in utero and in early childhood. And it was thought that disruptions in these hormones in women may lead to a higher risk of things like ADHD and autism. But in relation specifically to dopamine, having low thyroid, so like hypothyroid type experience, slows down dopamine transition. So as we know, dopamine is thought to be one of the key players in ADHD. So if thyroid function is low, it's likely that your dopamine system is going to be a bit sluggish. So this is going to exacerbate traits. So it's really important that we're doing full panel thyroid tests on women, not just looking at TSH, but we're looking at all of the thyroid hormones, because hypothyroidism can show up a bit like ADHD in terms of the more inattentive stuff. So we want to have a look at what's happening there to really support it. And there's a couple of studies that may be of interest to you around that. Then testosterone, she's definitely getting a lot more airtime at the moment and is one of the ones that I'm just feeling a little bit like, oh, let's just be careful with her. Love testosterone. And clinically, I tend to see ADHD women having higher levels of blood serum testosterone than I see neurotypical. I've never studied that. It's just an observation I tend to see. But there's no research, unsurprisingly, into this about specifically around ADHD. But we know that testosterone plays a big role in sensitizing dopamine, and plays a big role with motivation, decision-making, risk-taking, energy, drive, these kinds of things. Really big role in cognitive function and mood. So there can be this tendency, at the moment, testosterone is kind of the new estrogen when it's being touted to support ADHD. I would be very gentle with this approach, because if that woman doesn't need testosterone or has a preference for methylating it through the liver in a way that kind of turns it into testosterones on steroids, you could really exacerbate things like anger, rage, mood dysregulation. So it really isn't, again, like the rest of them, let's slap a bit of this on and hope it's okay. We really want to look at them all together and see what this woman's unique experience is. But, there is definitely this link around optimizing testosterone. So, like I say, I could talk to you all day. How am I doing for time? I'm good. Okay. So for those of you that are interested, these are the most useful studies in relation to women's hormones. I mean, look, this is what we're dealing with. 2024, 2023. I mean, finally, I think the memo has gone out that we need some more research into ADHD women. But it's just really, for me, they're validating what women's lived experiences have always been. I love the science, but what matters to me is what the quality of a woman's life and what her lived experience is. And the science can catch up with us eventually when we get there. But it's just to show, finally, there are some pieces of research to come out to validate our experience. And then here, this is just my interpretation of this piece of data. And it's showing the cycle with where the sensitive parts were seen. And in their study, I actually spoke with the lead professor on this study. He was great, but they acknowledged it was very estrogen focused, again, like all these studies tend to be. And what they put these increased, more vulnerable parts of the cycle down to were estrogen withdrawal. I would say it's more complex than that, but I think it gives us, a starting point of really putting hormones into the model for how we manage women's ADHD. I do not think anyone should be assessing, coaching, supporting ADHD women without having a conversation about hormones. You don't have to be a hormone expert. Just saying to a woman, track what's going on and let's see if there's a pattern. You don't need to know if it's estrogen or progesterone. You know, if you can see that in certain phases of her cycle, the inattentive traits are through the roof, you can support her to look at her diary and say, well, let's block that week out in terms of socializing or having to focus on things or whatever the trait is in that space. So it's a really powerful thing to do, and you don't have to have loads of knowledge to do it. But I just think that visual is quite useful. And there again, I'm banging on about tracking again. This is the tracker that I actually use in my clinic. I've got an inattentive one and a hyperactive one because it can be quite useful to really see the differences on that. And then women can adjust anything down here that they want to add in. And then just in terms of the life seasons, just to put this into perspective, I'm sure those of you that have been through perimenopause or in it are going to be able to relate to the chaos that this can look like. When we're in our 20s and 30s, we're generally, assuming everything's working as it should, have consistently good levels of estrogen and progesterone. Then from our mid to late 30s, we drop into phase 1 of perimenopause, which is where we see this progesterone come off. And this is a highly vulnerable time for ADHD women who may have spent their life knowing something wasn't quite right, being misdiagnosed, misprescribed. Suddenly the lid comes off and it's like, oh, it's ADHD. And I firmly believe it's this reduction in progesterone because estrogen tends to stay quite high and consistent here until we then transition into phase 2, where estrogen starts to drop and we come through the other side post-menopause. But during this time, women will experience the highest levels of estrogen they've ever had in their life and the lowest levels. And if we're adding histamine and glutamate issues into that without the support of progesterone, it's going to be a really wild time for ADHD women, and they need lots of support. And what I see clinically tends to be a really supportive model of care where women thrive in most situations is putting in a really good body identical, not synthetic, but body identical natural progesterone here, regulating the blood sugar, optimizing the nervous system, and through an ADHD lens. And that seems to work really well for a lot of my women. And again, just to show here, rather than having that estrogen high and then the progesterone, this is what's happening in perimenopause, where that progesterone drops off. We might still be having regular periods here. So unless a woman's actively tracking her ovulation, might not know this, but what I would expect to see with a woman's mental health here is her bandwidth has significantly reduced, her capacity, starting to worry about things she never used to worry about. Quite often I have women saying to me, in my car and I travel into London and wouldn't think twice about it. And now I'm worrying about whether there's a car park at the restaurant I'm going to at 6 p.m. Right? This is progesterone deficiency. It's an inner scratchiness, inner irritability, and really difficult to connect in with the joy of things, not because you're depressed, not because you're low, but everything kind of feels like a bit of a to-do list. And this is usually what's happening with the hormones when a woman's having that experience. I'm not going to talk about that. And then just the final piece that I'm going to share here is that these are the guys, the girls, that get lots of airtime when it comes to looking at hormones. But actually, when it comes to how the body prioritizes hormone production, they're at the bottom of the pecking order. If you don't produce these hormones, you're going to feel like crap, but you're not going to die. Okay. Whereas with these, very quickly, if we ran out of these, we're not going to be hanging around for very long. So the body will prioritize production of these hormones to make sure that you function optimally. And quite often in clinic, yes, it's really important to have a look at what's happening here. But once we really address this through somatics, nervous system regulation, blood sugar regulation, through diet and lifestyle, about 75% of symptoms go. We know that ADHD people are many more times likely to have type 2 diabetes. So this is really powerful to regulate in terms of mood, energy, sleep, and of course, nervous system dysregulation. I don't think we generally know what it feels like to be actually relaxed. We have a very high threshold for stress. And I think that's just how our nervous systems are wired. So it's really putting in non-negotiable support here. So I'm going to draw it to an end there. I hope that has been useful in beginning to just show the importance of the hormones, the neurotransmitters. And as I say, yes, I focused on ADHD, but this is relevant to all women. So I hope that helped.
Thank you so much, Adele. That was super informative, and I understand many more things about myself, the way my body functions, especially the relaxation for sure. I realized that I actually don't know how to go on holiday, even though I meditate a lot and I know how to regulate my nervous system, but to actually have a holiday where I do nothing is very, very difficult.
It is. Doing nothing is not our forte, and neither is consistency.
No, yes, that's the other one I really struggle with. What I love is really understanding that it is about balance, really looking at the entire, living system, which is a holistic approach. And as we look at nature continuously just seeks balance. And so really to just find that within ourselves. And I was wondering if anybody else has any questions for Adele at this point. We'll open up questions and answers also later. Rajni, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Eleftheria, and thank you so much, Adele, for this truly insightful presentation. And in fact, in recent times, I have observed a trend which is growing very fast, and that is the indiscriminate use of this term ADHD. In a way, it is being trivialized and it is being downplayed, by using that term for anything a little serious, or somebody is not able to focus. Like people say, oh, I'm so ADHD today, or I can't focus, must be my ADHD. So people are downplaying the seriousness of this issue, one. And even I have seen that, people often assume that they have ADHD, whereas the reality is they don't have ADHD. So in your day-to-day life, when you meet people who assume that, they have a tendency to kind of self-diagnose themselves and assuming that they have ADHD, how many people, what percentage of people you see in your day-to-day life who come for the consultation and they assume that they have ADHD, but they actually don't have?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't think we would know the exact data on that. So firstly, to speak to your first comment, and I'll try to get my ADHD to remember both questions. If I don't, just remind me. But the first comment, yes, it has become used very flippantly. And I think there's nothing more harmful you can say to an ADHD person. ADHD, I do that, right? It is so invalidating, particularly if, and I only deal with women, so I can only speak from that bias, particularly when that woman will have been down rabbit holes, probably had to advocate relentlessly, fight a system to be heard and seen, to then be instantly dismissed by someone who's supposed to love and care about her is so invalidating and harmful, I can't tell you. But what I say to people, and they're like, oh, well, I do that. I say, well, we all go for a wee every single day. But when you're going 20 times an hour, it's a problem. When that is disrupting and affecting your quality of life, of being able to sustain a job, of being remembering to pick your children up, of being able to maintain relationships where people feel nourished by you. We literally forget people exist. That's really horrible to be on the receiving end of, right? So these are really problematic elements for us. I couldn't do my work unless I had a PA. I'm a highly intelligent woman. I've got a high IQ. I'm very academic. I'm intelligent. You asked me to try and plan a clinic, it would send me over the edge. Without my PA doing that, I couldn't show up and do what I want. It's problematic. So it's that shift. Everyone can relate to those things happening at some point. But when it's your lived experience, second by second by second by second, it's a problem. And actually, we don't have a problem focusing. We just have to be really interested in something. Otherwise, we're bored and we check out. But if we're focused, I could not eat, drink, tend to my children for 8 hours if I'm focused on something I'm interested in. So I think there's that element there. In terms of the number of people who are self-diagnosed, I think this is a really tricky one because lots of people have had to get self-diagnosed because they felt invalidated, not heard, and they've had to go through that. And then they go, I don't want to be medicated. So what's the point of getting out? I've got this far. So my approach is if a woman comes to me and says, I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD, most women have massive imposter syndrome about it. Even at the point of diagnosis, they're like, oh, it's okay. No one's waking up and going, I think I'm going to get my and which is this perception. So I think there's a large number who are self-diagnosed, but I also think from my work there's a lot of women with hormone imbalances that show up very similarly to ADHD traits. So women are going, oh my gosh, this makes sense to me, this is what's going on. But actually, what was your childhood experience? Has this been your lifelong lived experience, and is there something else going on?
Mhm. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good. I'm now going to invite our second speaker, Celia de Mestral. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. To really speak to us about the 10 key factors of radical remission. And we're now kind of transitioning into talking about women and the cancer journey or cancer adventure. And to introduce it to Celia, Celia is a holistic practitioner, a breast cancer survivor, who has personally experienced the transformative power of integrating emotional work, natural therapies, and conventional medicine. Her journey has deepened her passion for helping others discover their own path to healing. I really believe that. She believes that the connection between emotions and the body is key to true wellness. And by working through emotional barriers and supporting the body with plant-based nutrition, herbal therapy, and manual relaxation techniques, she's found profound healing and renewed vitality. Her approach combines principles of radical remission inspired by Dr. Kelly Turner with the compassionate inquiry method of Dr. Gabor Mate. And currently, she's in her final year of naturopathic studies in Switzerland, and she's dedicated to guiding clients towards releasing emotional blocks, storing balance, and awakening their inner healing potential. Thank you, Celia. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here with all of you and to be learning more about mental health. Adele, thank you so much for that presentation. I mean, I was diagnosed with ADHD as well 3 years ago, and it's like, okay, now I understand so many things about my life, and even my diagnosis with breast cancer. I'm like, aha, there is definitely a correlation there. So it's just, I think getting diagnosed, sometimes people say, I don't need to get diagnosed, but I think for me, it was so important because, I'm like, okay, then I'm not, just losing it out of nowhere. And like, I've been putting so many things into practice, but I still feel this way. What is happening? So having the diagnosis really helped me to understand myself a lot more. And that is actually when I came across the work of Dr. Gabor Mate on, I think the first book I read was Scattered Minds, which really spoke to me about ADHD, because I wanted to understand a little bit more about, okay, what is this? What is happening? And I didn't want to take medication because I had breast cancer before, and I'm like, okay, I tried to do everything holistically, so let me see what I can do so that I don't take the medication that the psychiatrist wanted me to. So yeah, I found his work, and I really, really love it. And the approach has helped me a lot to understand the core issues of my ADHD and many other issues in my life. So yeah, but today we're here to talk about the radical remission factors. So I will be sharing with you a little bit of that. And then if I have more time, then if it's okay with you, I will speak a little bit about my experience with the radical remission factors and my journey with ADHD as well. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. Share. Can you see my screen? Are we good? All right. Okay, so let me just skip this one. So just to give you a brief introduction of radical remission factors, this was found by Dr. Kelly Turner. She wanted to do her dissertation on cases of spontaneous remissions around the world. These were people who have done a lot of conventional treatments and nothing worked, or were patients who had a very advanced cancer diagnosis and didn't do any of the conventional treatments, and then they found the holistic way. So for about a year, she went around the world and she interviewed all these people who were able to heal holistically. She found about 75 factors that all of these people have done, and she found that there were 10 in common. So this is why she created this the Radical Remission Project and the Radical Remission approach. And there is 10 factors that she found that all of them were doing. And just to clarify that the Radical Remission approach is not against any conventional treatments. It's they believe that the Radical Remission approach and the factors will actually help throughout someone's treatments, that it will help enhance the immune system. And, we want the immune system to be working whenever we're doing treatments, or if people are not doing treatments. And also, it is not only for cancer patients, this could be used for absolutely anybody who's going through any sort of conditions or pathologies, or even just in prevention. And I think this could also be very helpful for people with ADHD. I think these factors can be beneficial to absolutely anybody. So here we go with the factors. So we have, and there is no order to any of this, and none of them is more important than the other. It's just like a combination of all of them has been seen and has been proven to help all these people. So we have having strong reasons for living, empowering yourself, changing your diet, herbs and supplements, increasing positive emotions, releasing suppressed emotions. That's my favorite factor that I will talk a little bit more about. Following your intuition, increasing social support, spiritual connection, exercise, and movement. So I will go a little bit into each one of them. So here we have empowering yourself. That is such a very important factor, because it gives you the power to take care of your health. And this is what all of these radical remission survivors spoke about, that they were on the driving seat. They were the ones making the decisions. They were going to the doctor, but they weren't letting the doctors make the decisions for them. They were actually communicating with the doctors. Okay, this is the treatment that you want to give me. Let me go home and do my research and see if this is what will work for me or not. But they were active participants in their own healing journey, not just to be, the good patient of, yes, doctor, I'll do whatever you want. I have no idea what's happening here. So I give my life in your hands. So empowering yourself is such an important factor to really just take care of your life, be the captain of your journey. This is for me, and we are the ones who know ourselves more. Yes, doctors have years and years of academic studies, but we know ourselves way more than anybody else. So empowering yourself and making the decisions for yourself is very, very important. And this is what all of these radical remission survivors have done. Then we have embracing social support, having a community of people who are around you, that support you, that believe in you, and that are lifting yourself. It's so, so important. And this is a tricky one, because a lot of us we believe that we have that social support and we have that social connection, but are we actually receiving that love? Are we actually allowing ourselves to receive that support that we have from people? We can say, I'm surrounded by people. I have so many people that are taking care of me and they're helping me, but do we know how to receive? Do we know how to accept that love and that support from everybody? So these, the radical remission survivors, they spoke about learning how to be okay of receiving and how to receive love. And through having that social support and that connection and that community, it actually helped them to see that they are worthy of love. They deserve to be treated the way they're treated by their loved ones, that it's okay to just release, let go, and accept. And through the social support, then that's how they are able to accept love and accept help. And by doing that, we are also able to accept the self-love that we have for ourselves. So this one, it's a tricky one, because we believe sometimes, yeah, I have so many people around me. Why do I feel so empty? Maybe because you need to learn how to receive, how to accept that love that's around you. So embracing social support, another very important factor. Then, of course, releasing suppressed emotions. This is one of the factors that for me was the most difficult one, because I believed everything was fine in my life. I don't have anything I don't have anything to release. I had a happy childhood. I had a happy life. Everything is perfect. But once we start doing the work and we start connecting with ourselves, then we start realizing that there's so much, especially women. I mean, what do they tell us? You got to be good. You have to be this decent, sweet girl. Don't speak up. Do whatever you have to do. You need to love everybody. You need to please everybody around you. If you're a good girl, you're going to succeed in life and everybody's going to love you. So what do? We suppress our emotions. We don't express anger, because if we express anger, we are not accepted in society, or we're going to be punished, or we're going to be looked like, oh, you're such a bad girl, or where are your manners? And we just suppress all of these emotions, and we're just supposed to be the good little girl who's going to help absolutely everybody. And we start in childhood and we carry that throughout our lives, but we are suppressing so much emotion. We're not even being who we are. We're just being what society wants us to be. And from working with women, I've seen this over and over, like all the time. Women are just this perfect women who have everything in order and organized, and everything is just perfectly aligned in their lives, but actually they're breaking down inside because they can't keep going that way. And that's when your body is going to start speaking to you. So working through emotions, it's so important. And this is one of my favorite things that I actually work with all of my clients. And of course, I do all the protocol that we're supposed to be following, but addressing the suppressed emotions is key for me in any healing. Then we move on to deepening your spiritual connection. This is also another thing that a lot of radical remission survivors have done. They found that connection to something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a higher power or any sort of affiliation with our religion or philosophy or anything like that. Just something that brings you peace and inner connection. It could be music, it could be dancing, it could be connecting with nature, it could be just petting your dog, being around your friends, anything that brings this sense of calmness and connection with yourself. And this is key also to healing, because once you are able to bring this calmness into your life, then you're able to look at your life in a more and with a different perspective. And you're also starting to give more love and attention to yourself once we are able to calm down our nervous systems, of course. And yes, of course, there's survivors that speak about connecting to God, connecting with the universe, connecting with nature, connecting with a higher source, and finding this type of faith have really helped them into connecting with themselves and to finding a deeper healing, and to understanding that they have a reason for being here. And having a reason to be here is such an important thing, which is actually another factor. I don't know if that's the next one, but that's another factor of radical remission, having strong reasons for living. And I think we can find this also through spirituality and connecting with that essence that's within us. Then we have, of course, increasing positive emotions. This is another thing that the radical remission survivors have done. Just being surrounded by people who they love, being surrounded by positive energy and doing the things that they like, and just filling themselves with gratitude, that really helped them to increase those positive emotions. And we know that when we increase positive emotions, we are increasing those happy neurotransmitters in our lives, and all of that is helping us also with our immune system. And when our immune system is happy, then we're able to heal better, and we're able to get better and progress much faster into our healing. Then we have exercise and movement, which also kind of increases positive emotions. When we do exercise. And when we move, movement is life. Life is movement. We need to keep moving. That's how life works. And so just moving your body however you can. It doesn't have to be going for a marathon or doing, all of these crazy exercises. It's really just getting out of bed and walking to the mailbox, or if you live in an apartment building, maybe taking the steps if you're allowed to, if you're able to, depending on your condition. And just finding some sort of movement not only helps you to increase your immune system, but it also, movement helps you release many things. It could also help you release trapped emotions if somatic work as well. But just movement, we need to move. If we stay still, then there's no progress. So movement, exercise is key for absolutely everybody. And this is something that they've done also as radical remission survivors. Then we have, of course, changing your diet. I think today we eat so poorly. We are giving so much garbage to ourselves, and we're not even thinking like, is what I'm eating going to help my cells be better or be bad, or are they going to turn against me? We don't think about these things, and we need to be treating our little billions of cells inside of us with so much love and say, let me feed you, let me give you what you're needing. So the radical remission survivors, they completely changed their diet to most of them to a whole plant-based diet. They completely eliminated meat, dairy, sugar, wheat, and what else? I think I said the most. The ones that kept eating meat, they made sure that it was organically farmed, and that they really made sure where their meat was coming from, and they would only eat red meat. So that's very important in the healing journey when we have a chronic condition. Very, very important to pay attention to what are the foods that we're putting into our body. We need to be filling it with antioxidants and food that are going to be helping us fight the disease, not help the disease get bigger and bigger. I remember when I was diagnosed, the first question that I asked my oncologist was, should I change my diet? She said, no, continue eating everything. And I'm like, what about alcohol? No, don't change anything. Keep living your life as it is. Luckily, I was studying nutrition at that time, but for just private reasons, personal reasons. But I already knew, I'm like, wait a minute, diet has something to do with it. And she's just telling me to continue eating that way? No. So yeah, but it's not because they just have not been educated on it. They don't take nutrition courses. So it's not intentional that they tell you this. It's just, we need more information. We need more awareness in the conventional world, so that they know that nutrition does play a big role in healing. And we need people to be eating healthier. We need to raise awareness on the way people eat today. And even with ADHD, I'm sure, Adele, you would agree that even the foods that we eat could impact ADHD and the way that, we're dealing with certain things. So change your diet. Radical remission survivors have used it, and they've seen, there's people who have only changed their diet, and they've seen a huge amount of progress in their healing journey. So changing your diet, it's key, important, very, very important. Then we have following your intuition. But do we even know what our intuition is today? It's just shut down. But I think when we go through difficult times in our lives, our nervous system does activate your gut feeling. So because it's related to your gut and the brain, these are correlated. And when you are when you're facing a critical condition or a difficult situation, your nervous system would want to fight for you. And sometimes, mostly, your gut instincts, your instincts will be activated, and then we just need to learn how to listen to them. Not a lot of people know how to listen to them, but luckily, all these radical remission survivors, they talk about having this gut feeling that they just knew. They just had this feeling that they had to follow a different path, or they had a feeling that they had to change their diet. they felt that gut feeling, and they describe it very vividly. Like, I knew that I had to follow that. And if they went against their gut feeling, then they knew that, wait, something is off. Maybe I should just listen to what I need to, I need to listen to my body. And our body is so amazing that it gives us signals all the time. We just got used to not listening to it. I mean, nobody teaches us that we need to listen to our bodies, right? But luckily, the body has such an amazing way of functioning that eventually, hopefully, we will all listen to our body. So gut feeling is so important. So yeah, following your intuition, very important. Then we have herbs and supplements. This is one of the factors that we need to be careful about, because we can't just go online and start looking at what herbs and supplements I should be taking. It really depends on who you are, what your condition is, what medications you're taking. Also, like hormonal, like in what state of your hormonal cycle you are. Very, very important to be careful with herbs and supplements. This is the one that I would encourage everybody to seek professional help, to know which supplements and herbs are gonna work better for them. But yeah, all of these things there's herbs and supplements that have shown to completely kill cancer cells. And yes, there's not a lot of studies on it, but people who have taken the supplements, they swear by it. They say, I took the supplement, I took this herb, and it completely healed me. So there is also supplements and herbs that will help your immune system. There's herbs and supplements that will clean your liver. I mean, everything that you do in your body, it's eventually going to help raise your immune system. And when your immune system works better, then everything is more harmonized and working better in your system. Then we have the last factor, which is having strong reasons for living. That's one of the things that a lot of these radical remission survivors have done, just finding a strong reason to live. Because if we don't have that strong reason, then why do we even want to fight? Why do we want to change our diet? Why do we want to do more movement? Why am I here? If I don't have a strong reason to live, then I might as well just go. So that's one of the things I really work on. I work on usually the first sessions with my clients, like, what are your reasons for living? Because if somebody doesn't want to, I don't want to pressure you. I don't want to, tell you to live when you don't want to. It has to come from within. And when you find that reason, it could be your children, it could be your grandkids, it can be your parents, it could be your partner, it could be your dogs, it could be absolutely anything. But it's important to find that reason. And the best reason, I think, to live is just to find that love for yourself. It's because I love myself and I want to experience life and I want to experience everything that life has to offer. But sometimes it's easier to find external reasons to live than ourselves, and that's okay. There's so many ways to go about it. So, how am I in time? Do I have enough time? Okay. So these are the top, the 10 healing factors with that Dr. Kelly Turner found, and she's seen that this works for a lot of other patients that are not just cancer patients, but autoimmune diseases, chronic diseases, and just like I said before, it could be used for prevention, it could be for absolutely anybody. And so yeah. And what else can I say? And yeah, so in my journey, like the ones I came across Dr. Kelly Turner's work. So I was diagnosed in 2020 with breast cancer, and I was a good patient. I was just going to the doctor, and yes, just do whatever you need to do. I believe in you. Do the biopsy, do the scans, do everything. I don't understand cancer. You do. So whatever you say, I'll do. And so I did the surgery, and then after the first round of chemo, I think that awoke into my gut feeling. I was like, there's something weird about this. I don't want to keep doing this. Why am I putting toxins in my body to prevent cancer from coming back? This just doesn't make sense to me. And this is just my personal story. I believe people should follow the treatments that they want to follow and they believe is best for them. Chemotherapy has helped a lot of women. And for me, it was just because my cancer was early stages. So they removed the tumor and then everything was clear. So they told me for prevention reasons, we're going to do chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and hormonal therapy. So I just said, yes, 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 let's do everything. And it was then that I was like, wait, but I don't have anything right now. Why am I putting chemo in my body? Like, I want to understand first what happened to my body so that then I can prevent cancer from coming back. So I've asked my oncologist, why did this happen to me? I'm 30 years old and there is no genetic predisposition to cancer in my family. So why? And her answer was, because you're a woman and you're unlucky. And I was like, okay, sure, I get that, but can you give me like, how does the body work, the functioning of it? What are the causes? And she said, just don't worry about it. We're going to do everything we need to do. And so then I was like, no, I need to understand why. So I went to see 4 different oncologists. I went to see the head, the director of the oncology department in another city. And he was supposed to be one of the greatest, right? So I go and I ask him, like, I just want to know why, what happened? And same answer. I don't know if they all were taught this sentence at school. You're a woman and you're unlucky. I'm like, okay, can you give me something more? Nobody had really explained it to me. So the other doctors, same situation. Then after the first round of chemo, I was like, I need to understand. I can't just sit still. Maybe that was my ADHD trying to like, you need to understand what's happening. So I started reading, I started doing so much research, and I found this clinic in the Swiss German part of Switzerland. And I went to see them and I'm like, listen, I know I'm a woman and I'm unlucky, but could you explain me what happens to the body so cancer happens? And there they explained me everything. They were like, honey, your immune system is almost non-existent right now. You have been in chronic stress for so long. And they did a bunch of different tests and I had leaky gut, irritable bowel syndrome. And this was just the beginning of it. Then there were viruses that were active, there were parasites, there were so many things happening in my body. I wasn't sleeping also because my previous job was very stressful. So then they explained me how the immune system worked, and they explained me the nervous system. They explained me how we need to absorb nutrients and all of this. I'm like, okay, now I know what I can do to prevent it from happening again. So I started doing all of these factors and the radical remission factors without even knowing it. So I changed my diet. I started exercising. I started connecting myself more with people that I care about. Luckily it was during COVID. So, you know, you have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to get sick. So people don't come to my house. So you select the people that come to your house. So little by little, I started doing all of these things and I felt so much better. And then a friend told me, have you read Radical Remission, the book? And I'm like, no, I haven't. So I read the book and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing all of these things and I'm feeling so much better. And when I told my oncologist that I didn't want to do the chemo anymore, she told me, you're crazy, you're going to die. And I'm like, you know what? Watch me. In my head, I'm like, I don't think so. You know, just, I think I'm going to be fine. And I even got into an argument with my, with the surgeon, because she also told me, are you crazy? You're going to die. If you were my daughter, I would, you know, I would make sure you get the treatments. And I'm like, well, I'm not your daughter, so I'm going to do what I need to do. And then I gave them some lectures on nutrition and the stress and everything. So they told me that cancer was going to come back within a year or two. And it's been 5 years and I keep going just to do the tests every year. And they're like, so what is it that you did actually? Can you tell us? I did a combination of different treatments and therapies at the clinic. And then after the clinic, I continued and I still do certain things. And it completely changed my life. So these factors, you know, we have it in us. It's intuitive. We don't, you know, all of these people, also the people that have done all of these things, they did it intuitively. They knew that, one, they had a reason to live. then they trusted their gut, and they were just using common sense. If I am surrounded by positive energy, then I'm going to be better. I'm going to remove everything that's stressing me, because I don't need to do that anymore. Why am I doing that? And throughout this whole journey, I was able to, I had the diagnosis with ADHD 3 years ago. So that was 2 years after the cancer diagnosis. And that diagnosis also helped me to see, who am I really? And that through the compassionate inquiry approach, I was able to connect with my true essence, with who is that little girl who got lost in the way? Who is she? Who was this little woman who had no idea how to survive in life, but because of the conditions that society puts on us, and we have to repress who we are. And I'm thankful for cancer, because thanks to cancer, I was able to find my authenticity. And thanks to all of these factors that I was able to listen to, I was also surrounded by amazing therapists. And I think once you start to listen to your body and listen to your intuition, okay, something is off here, and you connect with that inner power within yourself, you're just going to start seeing synchronicities in your life. And you're going to be sent the right people in your life. You're going to, I could stay hours and hours to tell you how incredible the people that I met in my life after the cancer diagnosis. And when I said, no, I'm going to be the captain of my ship, I'm not going to let anybody else control it. When I said that, things just started to unfold, and meeting people and learning things. And it's just an incredible journey. And the radical remission factors, when I met the people at the training, it was just incredible people. So first thing, if I can say to anybody, is listen to yourself, come back to yourself, connect with that essence that is within you. And whatever condition, whatever pathology, whatever situation you're going through in your life, come back to yourself, because you have all the answers. All the answers are there. So yeah, that's a little bit of me and the story, and the 10 healing factors. I hope that was okay with everybody. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Celia, for that beautiful presentation, and to really vulnerably share your own story. That was really powerful to listen to. I would want to invite actually both you and Adele as well at some point to just drop your details into the chat box, so that if anybody wanted to contact you, please share your websites and your contact details with us. And does anybody have a question for Celia?
I have a question for Celia Eleftheria, if I may ask her one question.
Rajni. Thank you.
So Celia, first of all, I believe that you are very, very brave, and at the same time very fortunate also, because not every human has that instinct, what you call gut feeling. Not every human can feel the intuition, because the moment one is diagnosed with a serious illness, we become mentally paralyzed.
Yeah.
It's a general human emotion. And no matter how much others tell, no matter what doctor is telling, because we know that those emotions are very toxic for us. Nevertheless, we are unable to break that cycle of thought, which is that loop our mind get into, because we are thinking about the future constantly.
Yeah.
And nowadays, in the age of social media, when we are quick to go to Google and we instantly start searching, what is happening, what are the probabilities I will survive, what are the remedies available, we start looking at the data, figures and all. So
Yeah.
people who are very apprehensive, or generally people become apprehensive when they are going through this stage of life, they feel more negative emotion. They feel, oh my God, it's so difficult to survive. And during such state, it is so difficult to maintain your mental stability. So please help everybody, whosoever is listening this particular session, watching it, and people who have come to join this session with the hope that they would be enlightened by knowing what is the secret of your mental stability, and how did you come out of that thoughts loop, that loop that you have built in your mind.
Yeah, thank you. That is such an important remark, because it's true. Not everybody has that privilege. And I am very thankful for having that privilege to be able to connect with that part of myself and to become so resilient. And I don't have an answer that could work for anybody, but what worked for everybody. I mean, but what worked for me, it was the moment that I got the diagnosis. I went through all of these phases. I was completely lost. I was like, you know, I need to understand. And I started reading books. And I think I read about 5 books in 3 days because I just really wanted to know. I didn't sleep. And I was getting angry at my ex-partner. Like, why aren't you helping me reading these books? Like, I'm going to die and nobody's going to help me. Like, I was going through all of that until I think it was, and I think really it was the stillness that I was able to have during the first round of chemo. That's when I was sitting on a chair. I can't move. I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking. And I think moments of stillness is what is going to help you connect with yourself and your inner thing and your fears and your pain. And there I started crying. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And then I'm like, well, you can't move, so you're going to have to sit and cry. So I sat there and I cried and I cried and I cried. I didn't even know why, because there were so many things in my head, but I felt the pain that I needed to feel. And I think that that is one of the things that we all run away from. We don't want to feel pain. And our nervous system also doesn't want us to feel pain. So we're going to try to run away and we're going to distract ourselves. Let me try to get more information and more information and more information. The thing is that the answer is really just here. We have to sit down, feel the pain. We have to feel it somehow. If we need to laugh, laugh about it. If you need to scream, scream. If you need to punch something, punch something. But that pain is the key to healing. That pain is the key to waking up and saying, okay, I felt the pain and I understand it. Because the pain could be, we could choose to suffer with that pain, or we can choose to empower ourselves with that pain and say, okay, enough is enough. And I think when we have certain conditions, certain pathologies, and I'm not speaking for all pathologies, but most of the ones today, this is just because we've had enough. We have been fooling ourselves too much for so long. And if we're going to speak about women, there is a rise in autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune diseases, from what I've learned, is really just repressing our emotions, repressing who we are, trying to adapt to a society that is just not, it's just not sustainable for us. And I think, if it answers your question, it's just a moment of stillness and feeling the emotions and the pain that is within us. Because once we feel that, then we will find the answer. And that's how I found my answers. And I still practice that. There are days that I get very distracted and I get very disconnected from my mission. And I know it, but now I know that, okay, girl, you got to go home and cry. And I sit and I literally sit on the floor and I make sure my phone is away and everything is away. And sometimes it takes me time and I want to run away. I just want to, no, just go outside. Just call your mom. Just do this. Just do that. But no, I'm like, no, you're going to sit and you're going to feel it. And it could take 3 minutes. It's so simple, but we're so afraid of the pain. Pain is our friend. Pain teaches us to be stronger and to grow. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. I just felt inspired to say that.
But I'm sure you have inspired many people today. So thank you so much for your insightful presentation and answer. Of course, each one to their own. Each one have their ways to survive on this earth. And it's a mindset also. And I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Celia. I couldn't agree more. I think we will do almost anything to not lean into the discomfort of pain, but that is where the seat of power is available to us. So transforming that pain into empowerment is probably the most powerful thing that we're capable of doing. So thank you for that beautiful pill of wisdom.
Thank you.
And now I would love to invite I want to end each of our series of seminars, webinars, get-togethers, circles with a story of hope. And I've invited Alicia, Avilla, to share with us her journey and her story of hope. And so I'd like to introduce you to Alicia. Alicia is a passionate life enthusiast whose perspective was profoundly transformed by her experience of stage 3 pancreatic cancer in April 2021. There were ups and downs every step of the way. There were many teachings and challenges. She had 7-hour robotic Whipple surgery with a very challenging recovery, followed by chemotherapy. And during her treatment and recovery, Alicia adopted all 10 of the radical remission healing factors, again, without knowing about it, but just intuitively following that. And she believes that if cancer hadn't knocked on her door, she would never have changed. She never would have felt so much happiness by watching a sunset or a sunrise, sharing experiences in the physical with the people she loves, or the simplest pleasures in life, like a great cup of warm tea in her hands on a chilly morning. Today, Alicia cherishes her time with Picasso, her beloved horse, and enjoys invigorating walks and heartwarming conversations with her dog, Tequila Pepper. However, her greatest joy comes from sharing every day with her husband, Per, as she navigates life's journeys together as co-conspirators. Alicia, I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Eleftheria. And Celia, Adele, everything was so inspiring, and I can relate to all of the presentations. First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. It's 2025. I'm still here in the physical. I cannot, tell you how happy I am. Where do I start? There's an Alicia before the diagnosis, or the big adventure, as I call it, and there's an Alicia after the big adventure. And let me start with April 2021, when I got the call from my doctor. I was starting to feel some pain in the upper abdominal region. I was getting kind of yellow, so I went to see my doctor. And it was it had been it's still the lockdown at that point in time. We were exploring the vaccines and so on. So everyone was a little bit in the edge, like what could be happening. So I went back to my doctor. He started running test after test, and he calls me a Monday afternoon and says, I cannot figure out what's going on. I need you to go to the ER. The only thing I can see is your liver and your pancreas are failing. And those are essential for you to keep living. So you better go to the ER. So my first thought was, but I don't feel like I'm dying, right? And he's like, go to the ER, please. So then I turned around. I told my husband, you know what, honey, I think you have to take me to the ER. The doctor says so. He drives me to the ER. He cannot get in. Remember, it's still locked down. So it's just the patient that goes in. I got in, they ran test after test. Finally, around midnight, they did a CT scan and they discovered a mass in the head of my pancreas. And at that point in time, they assigned a room and they allowed my husband to come in. The kind doctor said, hey, we don't have the equipment and the team over here to keep doing more research, like a biopsy. And it seems that there's an obstruction and that's why you're getting kind of yellow. So we need to transport you to another hospital that is 2.5 hours away. I said, okay, perfect. So I can go home. My husband can take me there. And they are like, no, you're going on an ambulance and your husband can follow. So the next day, it was like the 2.5 hour drive all the way to the hospital. The doctors that were supposed to see me that day, because of many emergencies, they couldn't. So I was scheduled for the following day. So the team that was supposed to see me wasn't there. So I got another team the next day. And I went through the process of the biopsy. They went in, they put a stent to unblock any of the ducts that were being pressed by that mass. And I remember when I woke up, there was this amazing, kind doctor, Dr. Takar, that I see up to date. And he sat at the foot of my bed and he said, it's adenocarcinoma. It's cancer. He said, within all the bad news, there's good news because it seems to be resectable. We can perform a surgery and can get it out of you. Of course, when you hear pancreatic cancer, they've always told you if we're going to get one type of cancer, get any cancer, but pancreatic. So my first thought was, probably I'm gone. And all those thoughts that I was going to start enjoying life when I retire, probably I wouldn't make it to 65 to retire. So suddenly, all that analytical mind that was always planning for the future, it was like, it's gone just within a few hours. So that was a shock. And all those emotions with a diagnosis like this, like shame, like guilt, you're no longer the good girl. You're no longer the perfect girl. You're no longer the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect employee. There's a lot of shame and guilt. And as Celia was mentioning, it's so uncomfortable to sit in those emotions. Fortunately, I think that the universe and my guides and my angels had been preparing me for this. 2020, with the lockdown, I was introduced to the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I read the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. That was the first book that blew my mind, like, really? I'm so analytical. If I cannot see it, touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist. That's it. And this book was telling me all about the neural connections, how we actually create our own reality on the way we go from within. So everything comes from within and reflects on the outside. Of course, it blew my mind in 2020. I was like, really? And meditation? Do you want me to meditate like twice a day, 15 minutes? 15 minutes sitting my body in a chair for meditation. They were torturing me every day. But it was COVID, right? Lockdown. It was like desperate times, people, we need to do something. So I went through it. And by the end of 2020, it opened my mind. I went into different virtual courses that Dr. Joe had. And it's like, wow, that's so interesting, really. And then by the end of 2020, I got the intuition. I love horseback riding, and I found another partner in crime named Picasso. And in December, he was finally like mine. We were together. And when this happened, it was like, first of all, with the shock, everything I was learning and trying to practice went out the window. It was like my world was just crashing down. I didn't know if I was going to make it for 2 or 3 months. You hear the horrible stories about pancreatic cancer. So after Dr. Takar mentioned that and my world collapsed, then the surgeon came in, and he was such a kind person as well, Dr. Boone. And he said, hey, this is what we can do. I think you are very lucky because it's resectable. And they kept saying resectable, resectable. So I asked him, why do you do what you do? And he said, there weren't that many pancreatic surgeons, and I decided to dedicate my life to this. And he was so honest. And I guess at that point in time, my intuition was already telling me like, okay, you're going to be my surgeon. That's it. When I went back home and he said, okay, they scheduled the surgery, in the back of my mind, I said, there must be something else. And at that point in time, I already had Gaia, this higher consciousness network. And something in my heart told me there must be an answer here. And I started looking and looking and looking and looking. And then I found this interview of Regina Meredith with Bill McKenna that said, a simple way of healing. I watched the interview. Then, of course, I Googled Bill McKenna and I see immunity gym. Immunity, cancer, maybe, right? Why not? So I get into this immunity gym that it's about breathing techniques to help your immune system. Said, hey, it's not gonna hurt, right? So I keep the medical route, the traditional one, but at the same time I find this other route. And I keep both. And my doctors, fortunately, the ones that I found, I was like, hey, and if I do this breathing, and if I do this and that, they were like, yeah, whatever you want to do, it's fine. And as I was navigating that, I also discovered the power of balancing your brain, the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere. There was another technique that through Bill McKenna was brought to my attention, cogno movement, that they used a third dimensional object and movements with the eyes and what they call pattern interrupts that helps you bring back your nervous system to balance, to that neutral space where the magic can happen. So as I was navigating everything, I was like, hey, initially they thought it was stage 1, right? So it's stage 1 cancer. I can go through the surgery. I can do it. There's no problem. I remember talking to my manager and I was like, no worries, I'll go through the surgery and in 2 weeks, I'm back. Like nothing happened. Well, I guess the universe and my guides knew that. So I go through surgery and they discover it's actually stage 3. It's in the lymph nodes already. And that's when I thought, wow, I'm gone. I'm gone. That's it. I'm gone. What's the point? And as I was navigating that moment when you say, I'm gone, and when you realize what you're going to miss is actually spending time with the people in the physical that you love, with your beloved dogs, with your horse, hugging your parents, telling people I love you. The contracts and the projects and the chat, everything disappeared. It's so easy to prioritize when you are there and you wish for more time with your beloved ones. And suddenly something sparked the thought, let me find survivors that have done that. And I remember Dr. Boone told me, if you want to research pancreatic cancer, do not Google it, first of all. And second of all, if you want information, go to pancan.org. And I said, okay, pancan.org, here I come. So I called them and I said, I have this diagnosis. I have stage 3. It's already in the lymph nodes, 8 lymph nodes. And 1/2 was left in me. So like a kind reminder, like, hey, I'm still here. Hello. So I said, find me someone that has survived that. And they found 2 and connected me with them. And I was able to talk to them. And one of them was already a grandmother that had this like in her late 40s, just like me. It was when I was 47 years old. And she was in the car already taking her grandsons and granddaughters somewhere else. And she was so happy. And she's like, you know what? I did it. If I was able to go through it, then you can go through it. So that my analytical brain that was so fixed on we are gone, forget it, then saw someone that was alive. And then more magic happened. One of the cousins of my husband, she has an aunt that she went through pancreatic cancer and Whipple surgery in her 40s. Right now, she's 81, running her own business and traveling and living an amazing life. I connected with her again. So that helped that analytical brain to say, hey, it's possible. If it's possible for them, why not for you? So between my doctors supporting me through the Whipple surgery that was so rough, I thought it was going to be very easy to try to reconnect your digestive system. Because this avatar, this amazing body we have, it's a Ferrari. It's magic. We don't have the manual to know how to operate it, right? So going through Whipple surgery taught me to be more in connection with my body. I had to ask even my body, like, what are we gonna eat today? Is it gonna help us? Is it not gonna help us? Your digestive system, when you go through Whipple surgery, they remove part of your small intestine, the head of the pancreas, the gallbladder, part of the stomach, and they reconnect everything. And they hope that your digestive system gets again the rhythm so that it can absorb nutrients and get the food. I was very lucky to find this intuition and these other empowering tools. And at the same time, my doctors, I guess, just my angels, knew the ones that I had to have in the process. Of course, they said you need to have chemotherapy because it was already in your lymph nodes. You need to have radiation. And I went through the first part of chemotherapy, but even my body wasn't agreeing with it. They were, as the doctor said, we are killing you in the process. We need to give you a break. It's too much. So I went into radiation, and I remember when I came back to the second half of the chemo, she said, "What do you want to do, Alicia? There's no wrong or right answer." And for a doctor to tell you that, oh my goodness, I will forever be grateful to my oncologist for that. And at that point in time, I was more attuned to my body. And the body said, "I don't want chemo." That's it. And with all the fear, because of course you always have the angel and you always have like the little devil saying, you're gonna die. And that was November 2021 that I said, no more chemo, let's go into surveillance. And up to today, my last checkup was April, the next one is coming in July, no evidence of disease. Of course, I changed the way I was eating, the way I was thinking, releasing emotions. That little girl that was a people pleaser, that had to be the good girl, sometimes she still comes back. And I have to sit still and tell to myself, why is this here? Or if I'm feeling an uncomfortable emotion, why is the uncomfortable emotion there? And I'm able now to sit with that uncomfortable emotion and see also my limiting beliefs and say what limiting belief needs to be true in order for me to feel that emotion. And at one point in time, I remember I said, what was the answer? What was the secret thing that healed me? I was focused on that. My analytical brain was like, there must have been one. And thanks to, reading the Radical Remission book and so on, I understood healing is multifaceted. It's not one thing. And what might have worked for me will not work for someone else, but it's many, many aspects of yourself that you have to look at in order to get the healing you need to be your authentic, in the end, your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And I'm still very programmed, and I still, as I say, sometimes I fall from heaven and I get into my old self and very stressed. I believe too much this physical reality. And then I have to take that moment to say, okay, I need to go within. The environment is reflecting too much friction. Why? What am I doing to reflect that? And sometimes I have to take time off. I have to cry my eyes out. I need to find help. I need to find the support. But it's just learning to be with yourself, listen to yourself, sit with yourself, and see what resonates with you. So if Alicia could go back to that 2021 event, she would say, you're going to have the biggest adventure of your life, but it's going to free you from all the limiting beliefs you've been programmed with to allow you to be your authentic self. And it may take time because, of course, once you are blessed with more time, the question is, I was left here. Why? Why was I blessed with this? And not that many pancreatic cancer patients are blessed with that. What do I need to do? What's my purpose? And then you need to navigate the waves of life and listen to what's coming. And that's why I started sharing my story last year. Being an introvert, I do not like to share the story, or I did not. But then I realized how many people need what I had because of someone sharing in 2021 her adventure and how she was living her life now after that I'm alive today. So to all the blessings, to all the angels, to all the guides, to everyone in the physical and not in the physical that were with me, I just want to say thank you. I forever will be grateful for these additional moments in this physical world, this additional time, and I will definitely not waste it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing your story. I truly believe that it's so important for women to share their stories, because you never know who you're going to inspire or who you're going to give that little flame of hope to. And it always arrives at exactly the right moment. And that's the beautiful, beautiful thing about life. The one thing that for me, there's a couple of things that connect all of the presentations and our stories together that I've heard all three of you really talk about. The first is balance, really balance. The second is a holistic approach, authentic living, and really understanding your own unique path in life. The nervous system is quite important. The balance of hormones are quite important. Our immune systems are very important, and a holistic approach. And I think this can bring us all into well-being, and also, again, really understanding that we're wired a little bit differently as women. And so one of our greatest powers is our intuition, and really learning how to listen to that. We have a question for Adele Wimsett from Soraya in the chat box. And I was wondering, Adele, if you could answer this. Could you
Sure.
Yeah, you've read the question.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And I think it would be coming back to those foundational principles that are so hard genuinely for us to really instill in ourselves as adults, let alone, I don't know how young the girl is, but if we're looking at tweens and teens, I don't envy you trying to do some of the suggestions that I'm going to propose, because I have a tween myself and know what this is like. But we're looking at reducing inflammation, right? We're wanting to get that clarity. And quite often when women come to work with me, they think I'm going to offer some real complex protocols. And occasionally that might be appropriate. But I think something that the beautiful women here have shared today, there's so much in the simplicity and basic pillars of health around how we're nourishing ourselves, about how we're resting, about how we're sleeping, about how we're connecting. And so many of us don't have those things in place. So I'd really be prioritizing sleep. You know, tween brains need 9 to 11 hours. Really focusing on blood sugar regulation. This is such a biggie for our kids. They just tend to have a much more sugar carb-based diet, particularly when they're out of sight. And trying to stay on top of that blood sugar regulation, hydration, making sure they're getting some salts in their water, nutrient support in terms of omega-3s, magnesium, particularly magnesium glycinate is really good for calming everything down. And just trying to reduce overstimulation, I think, you know, where possible, trying to get them out in daylight before 8:30 in the morning. Really trying to, I'm not suggesting this is what's happening, but, you know, trying to pull the schedules back, trying to really honor rest and creating time to just be. I see so many young women who are just frazzled. So really sort of encouraging that space and getting them to track their cycle and living cyclically and understanding. There's a really incredible device called the Mira, which is MIRA, and it's at-home hormone testing kit. It's incredible. It will track your estrogen and progesterone and see exactly what is going on throughout the cycle. And she can start to see, is there a cyclical element? Is she ovulating frequently? You know, the cycle doesn't establish itself properly until the early 20s. So I can see she's 21. Just might not be, she might be estrogen dominant, which would be quite common in that time. And just that real nervous system support. They would be those things, just coming back to that core pattern of health, circadian rhythm, getting that protein in, getting that hydration, honoring the rest, and trying to live cyclically as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Adele. I see we've got another question. Ivana has raised her hand. Ivana, I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead.
Thank you, Eleftheria. I'm trying to write it down, it wouldn't work. Thank you so much. It's been amazing to be listening in. I do have a question for Adele. regarding my daughter. She's 17, and she's got some kind of swelling around just under her eyes, and quite a kind of sinus kind of congestion, and she gets really kind of frustrated with herself about that puffiness that sort of appears under her eyes and around. And I just wanted to kind of, any kind of recommendations. I know Eleftheria mentioned possibly it's linked to liver, and maybe things are not draining properly.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes up for me is obviously like the real obvious culprits, like her rest and regulation and her sleep. But I'm really thinking lymph here. What's happening with her drainage? What's happening with getting enough through of hydration, making sure that it's not just like water, but there's salts in terms of the electrolytes. But on the flip side, making sure we're not getting too much of the salty type foods or processed foods in there. Also, when we see this, particularly from a hormonal fluctuation, is there a pattern around her cycle that she's noticing some of this happening? So this puffiness can sometimes be cyclical. So you might want to see, is this worse in the luteal phase or the follicular phase? Is she ovulating? Is there this estrogen to progesterone deficiency? Also, just because you're saying sort of around the sinuses, I'm wondering if there's anything histamine that might be going on there. And you can get air purifiers. There's lots you can do around histamine, which I won't go on to here. Again, blood sugar can be one, because those spikes can really cause temporary inflammation, and blood sugar regulation is a biggie for our girls. So they would be some of the things I would look at, and even getting like a gua sha. I think our girls, they love a little bit of pampering. Just getting that daily gua sha. I quite often recommend this to some of my women first thing in the morning, down the neck, over the face, to just help move some of that through.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Rajni.
Do we have time for one more question? Is it possible?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I have a question for Alicia. And Alicia, I truly admire your courage in facing such a life-threatening illness with such a bravery, with such a courage, and you have been through a lot of emotional turbulence. And I could genuinely feel your emotions through your words, whatever the way you narrated your story. I think at some level it resonates with every lady, no matter whether they have gone through this phase or not, but at some point we all feel this kind of emotion. So that was very resonating story. And I'm just trying to understand, because you told through your presentation that you are very analytical, at the same time you are not somebody who likes to tell your emotions easily to the world. But if you're comfortable, would you like to inform us or enlighten us about about your formative years? Did you think you inculcated some subconscious habit that kept you strong through that phase of your life?
I guess if I go back to my childhood, I'm the oldest of the family. So there was always this responsibility, because you are the first one, that you are responsible for your brothers and you are the example. So you are meant to be perfect, you're meant to be responsible, and if anything happens to your parents, you will take care of your brothers. And I guess that level of responsibility is what shaped a lot of my anxiety and my fears, and also my strength. I mean, if I look at it, it gave me the drive to be who I was up to 47. Now I had to change a lot of things in order to navigate my big adventure. But I guess I got that drive from, hey, I have a purpose and I have a reason to live. And then that shifted when my brothers were, independent and so on. It's like, oh, my parents, I am responsible for my parents now. And through my big adventure, I understood that that's a lot of luggage to carry. So I realized that each human being can actually carry theirs, and I can support them the best I can, and I can be supported as well, because that's important. I was taught to be a giver all the time. Receiving, I still sometimes have difficulty with that one. I'm still working on that wound. But I understood it's like breathing. You cannot just be inhaling. You will die. You have to inhale and exhale in order to get the right rhythm and be connected to who you are and how things should flow and work.
Right. So have you been practicing any meditation daily?
Yes, I love the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, of course, his meditations, but I love other meditations as well, like the ones of Sacred Acoustics. And also I practice cogno movement because that's very physical. So if you go to cognomovement.com, I've studied it just because it helped me a lot, even with pain. I was remembering that when I went through the surgery, they couldn't control the pain. And you know how with painkillers, they have certain windows of time. And at one point, the one in charge of painkillers said, I'm sorry, we have to wait. And I was in such pain. But then thankfully, to having that tool, I said, okay, so pain is connected to the brain. There was trauma. And I started just doing the movements, balancing my brain. And that helped me through it. I was without any painkillers after the second week. And I would manage only with muscle relaxers and lots of cogno movement, I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alicia. I think we're incredibly blessed that there are so many modalities and so many different healing tools, and all of that information is available to us. And for us to remember that the most amazing advanced piece of technology is this beautiful, I call her your little Gaia, this little piece of the earth that's made of stardust and mountains and rivers. And if we create the space for us to really listen to our intuitive knowledge within, we will discover and know our own path. And then also find the support. There's so much support out there for our own path of healing and holistic well-being. So this kind of brings us to a close of our webinar today. I really wanted to thank our incredible speakers, my collaborators in this, Violeta and Rajni. Thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Thank you so much for everybody listening and to everybody in the replay. Yes, I wanted to close off by offering one super easy tool just for us to calm the nervous system. And the way that we want to calm the nervous system, it works for everybody, but also for us ADHD ladies, calming the nervous system is pretty important. And what we want to do, the first simplest thing is just breath. But of course, when we've got an amygdala hijack and the primal brain is going and alerting, we forget to breathe. So the first step is really to breathe, but we want to activate the vagus nerve. And one simple way to do that is to take your 4 fingers. You're welcome to join me in this. And very gently, we're just going to tap along the jaw all the way down to our chin. And then back all the way along the jawline. And then following this nerve along the cheekbones to the top of the lip. And back all the way to the ear. And now we tap around the eyes. All the way up the forehead. To the top of the head. Nice deep breath in. Exhale out and just release your hand. My face always feels so soft. I can immediately feel everything settling in and rooted and grounded. Thank you very, very much for joining us. I hope we stay connected. And if you have any further questions, we've got our speakers' contact details here, or you can contact us. See, there's lots of love and appreciation in our chat box over here. Everybody's saying it was truly inspiring, amazing. Thank you so much. And I wish us all a peaceful evening with some good rest. And wishing you all a beautiful day. And we'll see you in our next webinar happening next month. So wishing you all a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.